He's a three-division, five-time world champion.
Greatness. A singular concept that carries huge power and influence. Like beauty, however, a concept that is open to interpretation and shifting definitions.
One thing is, Canelo is getting better and has improved.
Though, for boxing's hottest asset, moving up to become champion of his fourth weight class puts him yet another step closer to cementing his name in the record books alongside some of the best to ever do it, and to what he and many others would consider greatness.
It's called Canelo crazy, but he's not afraid of no one.
Beating 9 world champions, with the likes of Charlo, Andrade, Smith, and Saunders all waiting in the wings for their shot at the Golden Boy.
Canelo Alvarez is a superstar in boxing, and if that fight can be made, then it's definitely one I will jump at.
Though, whether any can truly match the punch variety, speed, and pressure on the night is a totally different story. With huge, convincing knockout wins through the weight rankings, and an undeniable improvement both technically and tactically each time out.
Hardest thing to do in the ring, make the man miss.
Whilst his biggest learning curve undoubtedly was the night he fought the unbeaten pay-per-view king, here we break down nights that edged the Golden Boy closer and closer to his position as boxing's biggest draw.
He came an instant Hall of Famer tonight.
Please press thumbs up, subscribe, and press the bell button if you're new to the channel as we look at 5 times Canelo Alvarez shook the boxing world. Welcome to a Motivedia presentation.
It's showtime!
6 years ago in San Antonio, boxing fans witnessed one of the most explosive fights of Canelo's career. Coming for the WBA belt against unbeaten 26-0 super welterweight Austin Trout.
But this is the distance Canelo needs to start landing.
An American who, at 27 years old, was fresh off the back of a career-defining win against Miguel.
Oh, nice jab from Canelo. That stings Trout.
An immediate back-and-forth battle, showcasing the strengths of both fighters, broke out in the early rounds. And the Golden Boy certainly didn't have it all his own way, despite the scorecard saying otherwise.
Trout's controlling this round, and Canelo keeping his hands very low.
Throwing huge single shots, Canelo dropped Trout for the first time in his career by the 7th.
The big right hand that drops Trout.
And whilst it wasn't his most flamboyant, skillful, or devastating victory, we certainly saw glimpses of what was to come.
Body gets jacked to the jaw again.
Slipping shots and capitalizing on Trout's mistakes. By the final bell, the majority felt Canelo did enough to win, progressing to 42-0 and securing the first prime big name to his growing resume.
Canelo demanded this fight. Canelo passes the test, recording a unanimous decision win.
Boricuas y Mexicanos, are you ready?
2.5 years later, after suffering his only loss and racking up 3 more victories, came a night that would be fight or flight for boxing's fastest rising star. A night which would symbolize either the passing of the torch or a fall from grace. Also coming off a 3-fight knockout streak, tough, experienced Hall of Famer Miguel.
Round 1 begins. Everyone's on their feet.
The fight itself, despite Alvarez landing some spectacularly timed power shots, had no real signature moments.
Right hand by Canelo.
Instead, the 35-year-old brought enough firepower and technical prowess to bring out Canelo's true mettle.
Twitter can tell you the other's in the hard left hand for Canelo Alvarez.
And showing patience, maturity, and finesse, the young Mexican star thrived.
Good left hook by Canelo Alvarez.
Canelo is in control, Jim.
Less active, but much more accurate and landing the more damaging shots.
That hurt Cotto really bad.
He's in trouble now.
Canelo secured his place as the lineal middleweight champion of the world and declared in his post-fight interview his willingness to fight his Kazakh rival.
He's a great champion. I know him. He's a friend of mine. But right now, I'll put the gloves on against him.
6 months after that night against Cotto, Canelo captured yet another huge name, blitzing Amir Khan in Vegas. However, it was actually 6 months before that he scored his most devastating, career-defining knockout. A night in Houston against a determined Texan with only one loss on his 34-fight record.
Wake up, because more likely than not, one of these two is about to go to sleep.
Though unlike the previous bout, this performance was an out-and-out display of killer instinct and relentlessness.
Leads down the middle by Alvarez. Kirkland hurt again.
And dropping Kirkland just halfway through the first, Alvarez smelt blood immediately.
Right hand, down goes Kirkland.
Willing to trade, the American was hurt again in the second and third rounds.
This is Mexican style.
And whilst he rose from his feet, battling on, the fight was all but over.
Kirkland keeps coming.
Throwing wildly to delay an inevitable onslaught, Kirkland was caught with a picture-perfect overhand right.
What a performance by Canelo Alvarez.
Maybe the most electrifying of Canelo Alvarez's career.
Canelo had scored his 33rd professional knockout, and a vicious ending that provoked a 4-year layoff, with Kirkland returning earlier this year.
When you show what you're about, when you got the right people behind you, let's see how far it can go.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Moving to Canelo's most recent outing, we saw him tested against another elite-level opponent.
Canelo wants to be remembered as one of the finest to ever lace them up.
Another large, imposing, and relentless middleweight icon, Danny the Miracle Man Jacobs.
Win a thing, these goes, ready, let's go.
Though by now, with his one-sided super middleweight wins against Chavez, Smith, and Fielding, Alvarez was being accustomed to fighting bigger men.
It's the elite level, the highest class.
And similarly, where he gave up 3 inches in height, he leveled the playing field with hand speed, accuracy, and work rate.
Trying, but good movement from Canelo. Quality work there.
And continuously improving, Canelo's display of footwork and head movement was some of the best we've seen.
Just slipping and sliding and making Jacobs miss.
Preventing Jacobs from landing anything meaningful and from having any success with his jab.
Canelo Alvarez is getting through now.
So much so that despite the Brooklynite rallying late into the fight, it was simply too little, too late. Thus, with an increasingly solid case for the pound-for-pound #1 slot, it leaves the boxing world scratching its head at just who, if anyone, can match the Golden Boy.
Unifies the middleweight division and wins the battle on Cinco de Mayo.
Which leaves just one. Another career-defining night for 2 true middleweight sensations. A throwback fight, an all-out war that sparked the imagination of boxing fans across the globe.
Look at the chin of Golovkin. He did no more than blink.
After the controversial draw against Golovkin in late 2017, it was precisely a year later that boxing fans would witness the rematch, billed as Supremacy.
Months of anticipation, and now it is fight time.
Learning from the first fight, Canelo countered and set an unrelenting pace. Most impressive was his ring generalship as he pressed the action, pushing Golovkin back in unfamiliar fashion.
Golovkin having to suck it up here now.
The fight had everything, and both fighters gave their all, landing big shots and trademark body blows, and showing resilience when on the back foot.
Oh, good shot, Golovkin. Terrific right hand.
The scores once again were incredibly close heading to the final bell.
People are standing up cheering.
With 2 judges having Canelo up by a round, the other scoring a draw.
And new
Boxing's hottest asset had snatched the title from the champion. Whilst it left a bitter feeling for some and satisfaction for others, there are very few that would oppose the chance to see a third and final clash in 2020.
And I can assure you that in the third time around, Canelo will knock him out.
So whilst Canelo beat the veteran Shane Mosley on his rise to superstardom, edged Erislandy Lara in one of his closest bouts to date, and bulldozed his way past the fast hands of Amir Khan, these 5 victories, for us at least, stood out as 5 of the most exceptional performances of Alvarez's career.
¡Viva México!
This weekend, Canelo plays Russian roulette in his bid for boxing greatness, as with another risky step up in weight, he faces Eastern European wrecking ball Sergey Kovalev. Another fight that could either derail his career or enhance his legacy of greatness. So Aiden, what cereal are you picking this morning? How about a power-packed bowl of Golovkin granola, the all-natural cereal that finishes you? Or a heaping helping of Andy Ruiz Jr. Wheaties, part of a well-rounded breakfast? Let's not forget that old favorite Pacquios, the only oat cereal that goes snap, crackle, and pop. Whatever you choose, you'll get your fill from a Motivadia presentation.